Hello and welcome to another episode of Bangladesh Today. I am Smita Prakash. India has a 4,095 kilometre long border with Bangladesh, which has been in the spotlight in particular due to illegal migration and smuggling of food and drug items. To discuss and sort out such issues, the Security Forces of India and Bangladesh held Director General level talks in New Delhi. A report on this and an update on the Shahbag protests in this edition of Bangladesh Today. The 23-member delegation of Border Guards Bangladesh (BGB), headed by Director General Major General Aziz Ahmad, discussed the border issue with India's Border Security Force Chief Subhash Joshi. Some of the issues discussed included development work on the border, fencing and smuggling activities. According to the BSF, 95% of the India-Bangladesh border has been fenced so far, and work for the remaining is under progress.
During night time, that is the time where all such criminal activities which I had mentioned in my opening remarks, like cattle smuggling, smuggling of narcotics, FICN, all these things, it is the night time only basically it takes such criminal activities take place. And therefore it is we have discussed during the deliberations, and we have agreed that we will lay special emphasis on coordinated simultaneous patrols on both the sides of the border, especially during night time.
The India-Bangladesh border passes through a number of rivers and hilly terrains of the Indian states of Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, Mizoram, besides West Bengal. Bangladesh and India in January 2013 had signed an extradition treaty and struck a deal to relax business visa restrictions between the neighbouring countries. The extradition treaty could pave the way for Bangladesh to put on trial several criminals who crossed the border into Indian territory. The Director General of BGB, Major General Aziz Ahmad Khan, said that the relations between India and Bangladesh were strong and they would improve even further by such initiatives.
This kind of meeting, definitely the outcome is enhancing the friendship between the two forces. And as the Excellency has already mentioned, that there are some issues which we thought that we need to discuss. And I'm sure once those issues are discussed, it will bring good results, and thereby the friendship or the relationship between these two forces, it will definitely improve.
As per the 2001 census, there are some 3.09 million people in India who came from Bangladesh. Yet, no dependable numbers on illegal migrants is available as of now. Criminals breach fences with impunity at the India-Bangladesh border, which poses a challenge for security forces of the two countries. The movement for speedy justice of war criminals, which prompted online activists and bloggers to gather at an intersection in Dhaka's Shahbag Square, has not lost steam, despite predictions in some Western publications that the movement would fizzle out. 10 members of Bangladesh's Jamaat-e-Islami party have been accused of corroborating with the Pakistan Army in the 1971 Liberation War in the rape, murder and genocide of millions. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has reiterated her vow to bring the criminals to justice. Addressing Awami League supporters at a rally in Dhaka, Sheikh Hasina said that those who committed crimes during the war, raped and killed people and set fire to villages would not be spared. She said that those who committed the genocide will be tried, and also that it was the dream of the father of the nation, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman.
যারা গ্রামের পর গ্রাম জ্বালিয়ে পুড়ে ছারখার করেছিল, যারা গণহত্যা চালিয়েছিল, তাদের বিচার আমরা করব, যে বিচার শুরু করেছিলেন জাতির পিতা বঙ্গবন্ধু শেখ মুজিবুর রহমান, যে বিচার বন্ধ করে দিয়েছিল 75-এর 15ই আগস্ট জাতির পিতাকে হত্যার পর সংবিধান লঙ্ঘন করে সামরিক শাসন জারি করে জেনারেল জিয়া ক্ষমতায় এসে ওই যুদ্ধাপরাধীদের বিচার বন্ধ করে দিয়ে যুদ্ধাপরাধীদেরকে মন্ত্রী বানিয়েছিল, তাদেরকে প্রধানমন্ত্রী বানিয়েছিল, উপদেষ্টা বানিয়ে রাজনৈতিকভাবে প্রতিষ্ঠিত করেছিল। আর যেসব অপরাধীর বিচার হয়েছিল তাদেরকে মুক্ত করে দিয়েছিল।
The War Crimes Tribunal, set up in 2010, was mandated to prosecute the guilty, even though 10 of the 11 on trial belonged to the Jamaat-e-Islami, an ally of the opposition BNP. The tribunal has so far sentenced prominent Jamaat members like Abul Kalam Azad, Dilawar Hussain Saidi to death and Abdul Qadir Mullah to life imprisonment.
You see, the violence that erupted almost across the country after the pronouncement of the third verdict against one of the leading activists and leader of Jamaat Islami, Dilawar Hussain Saidi, is something which was, I would say, rather expected and not something that was quite surprising for the nation. You see, Jamaat Islami as a political party had always been on a very course of violence. It has its destructive origin. It had probably manifested its destructive face not only once, but in the history even prior to our liberation war. But during the liberation war, the atrocities which are committed by this party and the activists of this party was unthinkable, which tantamounted to the most grievous and heinous crimes which we call war crimes and crimes against humanity, and that was perpetrated specially by this political party and adherents of this particular political ideology and people belonging to this particular political party. And time and again, even during the last 42 years, if you look at the history and the incidents of violence in different parts of the country, especially the educational institutions, and I would say more particularly in the highest seat of learning, i.e. the universities in the country, you'll see that in Chittagong University, in Rajshahi University, in Khulna University, in Carmichael College, at times in Dhaka University, the most violent offenses and crimes which are committed were attributed to Islami Chhatro Shibir, the student wing of Jamaat Islami. So that the party indulges in violence, that it commits atrocities time and again, is something which is not a new news, neither for the country, nor for the international community.
These verdicts sparked off nationwide violent protests by the Jamaat and its student wing. Protesters clashed with police, burnt public property and damaged temples. The Jamaat activists continued their attack on Hindu temples this week as religious idols were desecrated in Bogra and Bagera districts. Meanwhile, in Khulna city, more temples and shops of Hindus were vandalized and torched.
I think this the violence that is being resorted to by Jamaat Islami and their student wing is a manifestation of their utter frustration. The frustration is there because they see that they don't have any future politically in this country. This is the end of their existence. This is the end of their, sort of any, I would say, sharing of even power, which had been unfortunately part of our history also. So now they see that whatever they had attained over the last 42 years as a major political party in the country, because of being sort of nurtured and sometimes I would say assisted, sometimes under the blessing of a very big political party, sometimes in power, but sometimes the main opposition party of the country. So they had grown, in size. They have grown in branches, and they have extended their arms, through all the branches of the government, and they have become an economic force to be reckoned with. So now they think that the future seems to be very bleak, because once they do not exist as a political force to be reckoned with, it will have, I think, a fatal blow on their economic power. It will have the fatal blow on their political and social status, and therefore they are left with no space.
Leading Bangladeshi academician Anis-uz-Zaman slammed the Jamaat for their violent activities and strikes and said that the people should face them boldly.
That the Jamaat didn't react when the first judgment was delivered. That was because of two reasons. First, Abul Kalam Azad was absconding, and second, he was already expelled from the Jamaat. But as soon as one of the members of the Jamaat was punished, the Jamaat Islami took to streets and created violence. And after the third verdict, the violence took place all over the country, when national flags were burned, Shahid Minars were attacked, and especially Hindu houses and temples were under attack. So we are seeing a time when there is a deliberate attempt to destabilize the situation in the country and create circumstances which have long-term effect. I am worried, so are most of the people. But at the same time, I think the unreasonable demands of the Jamaat must be faced boldly. The people of the country are demanding trials of the war criminals since Bangladesh came into being. And now that the trials have started, they are out to stop it. That is unacceptable.
The Shahbag revolution, meanwhile, has the Jamaat and its ilk running scared. The progressive movement has stunned the fundamentalists and brought the trial into international focus. Anis-uz-Zaman also complimented Shahbag activists for being peaceful in their demonstrations.
May have to pay a small price for this, but the Jamaat must be told that the crimes which they had perpetrated in 1971 cannot be condoned.
The national flag was humiliated, Shahid Mina was attacked, the minority, they were also under attack. Particularly after the second verdict, how you evaluate those assembling in the Shahbag Square?
You see, I think it is quite legitimate to disagree with some verdict given by any court. But that must be done peacefully, and that must be done without contempting the court. The Shahbag people have demanded capital punishment for those accused or for those whose guilt would be proven. In one case, they found that the punishment handed by the court was, in their view, too lenient compared to the crimes the person had committed. But Shahbag people have not been unruly. They have not violated any law. They have not created a situation of law and order. They have been peaceful, whereas the Jamaat and Shiite people, they have been rowdy, they have been lawless, they have been totally disrespectful of other people's rights.
The Shahbag protest also drew support from India. People in Tripura took to the streets demanding the speedy trial in the 1971 war crimes. A program, Shahbag Sangati, was organized by the youth in the capital Agartala in support of the Shahbag movement. The protesters shouted slogans and made colourful banners in support of the Shahbag movement in Dhaka. Assaults by the Jamaat Islamists on Hindu temples and their strong-arm tactics of exploding bombs in city centres to terrorize citizens has made the Bangladeshi government to consider options including banning the Jamaat-e-Islami. This might be viewed by some as a vindictive political step by the Awami League against a political opponent, but at the same time the government cannot be seen as helpless to terror tactics, especially in an election year. More on that in the coming episodes. Thank you for watching Bangladesh Today.